Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is just going to be a small declutter. I've had some things in the back of my mind that I knew maybe I was ready to let go of, so I decided to go through my entire makeup collection, see if I could just pull some things out that I didn't need anymore, a little bit of spring cleaning, and I'm going to talk to you about those all today and why I'm deciding to declutter them. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around. But with all that, let's just get into these products. All right, so like I mentioned, there was some palettes that maybe I knew I didn't want to use. I am doing a series on my channel for No Pan Left Behind, so I'm trying to use every single palette in my collection, and there's just some I didn't want to waste my time on. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna take out those palettes. I'm not even gonna use them No Pan Left Behind because I don't want to, and can I get 10 things that maybe I just don't need in my collection anymore? I don't have just 10 palettes to talk about. Most of these are palettes, but I couldn't get to my 10 number and I was really determined. So I went through the rest of my collection and picked out some other products to get to that even number 10, make me feel good. And I'm really happy about the selection that I've made here. So I want to start off with the palette that kind of kicked it off. And it is the Odens Earthwood palette. This was a collaboration with Tina and the Fancy Face. I have nothing against the creator, but this formula is not great. And I almost decluttered this entire collection, including Spring Dragon and the Mighty Monster. But I looked at those color stories and I am willing to at least try them again and do No Pan Left Behind to really see if I need them in my collection. I might still declutter them, but out of the three, this color story speaks to me the least. So I just want to declutter it. I don't even want to try it out, waste some time using this palette when I could be giving some love to some other palettes in my collection. And yeah, that's kind of where we are. So this is the palette that started it off, the palette that made me go through my collection and just pick out a few things that I knew I didn't need. So that brought me to looking at all of my palettes. That's where I was trying to get to that 10 number. It didn't really happen. I'm not going to declutter. So I ended up picking for 7 palettes, and then the rest are not palettes. But let's go with these two. I kind of had these in the back of my mind as well that I wanted to declutter them. Both of these are from Klarity Kosmetics. So I have the Chocolate Seduction palette, and this is just a little 9-pan. I never used this. Here's what it looks like. It smells like chocolate, but this color story is not the neutrals that I'm going to reach for. This like really, really warm tone gold yellow shade. And then you have this brown pressed glitter in here. So I'm just gonna find someone who likes this color story and wants to use it. Like I said, it's not used in my collection, so it can easily go to another home. Both of these Klarity Cosmetics I actually got around Black Friday time because Klarity Cosmetics was doing a scavenger hunt type of sale. So they would every day put a palette for free and all you had to do was pay for shipping. So I found the palette, paid for shipping to get this, but this was technically free. So it's just not something that I necessarily sought out to purchase. I purchased it because it was free and I had to pay like $5 shipping. So don't buy things just because they're on sale. That is the theme of my life and the lesson I am trying to learn. The other palette that I got, same thing, this was free, is the Safari palette. This one I like a little bit more, but it's just a little too colorful and I haven't used it. So I'm just gonna find someone who wants to use it. Like there are some shades that I like in this palette, but they're neutrals. Like, do I have these two colors 10 times over? Probably. So I just don't need it. And I figured, again, want to love on some palettes that I really, really love, not just palettes that I semi-love. So this one's going to go as well. The last one that I have that is untouched and new is this one from Glam Shop. This, I'm not even going to try and pronounce. Here it is on the screen here, but I bought this because, again, it was on sale on their website. I wanted to try Glam Shop, so I ended up picking this up. It was super, super inexpensive. But the thing is, like, I don't wear a lot of pastels. So why did I buy this? Because it's on sale. It's still a waste of money, even if it's on sale, if I don't use it. So I have enough pastel palettes in my collection that I do want to reach for. I want to try the Spring Dragon again, see if I can make that work for me. This one, I went back and forth, but I just don't think it's special enough of a pastel palette to justify keeping around. I like that it has some neutrals in here, but there's not that many shimmers. Glam Shop's really well known for their shimmers. I did also purchase a newer Glam Shop palette that's way more up my alley. So I just don't think, like, for the one time a year I'm going to use this, it's not worth keeping around. It's just not, especially for the couple of dollars that I spent on this palette. It can go. Now, the rest of these palettes are used. I did try them and I just decided I don't really need them anymore. One of them being the Lawless, the Glam one. So I used this palette, I think, in a full face of new makeup, like full face for my drawer of shame, like things that were in my collection that were unused, that have been unused for quite some time. I think that's the video that I tried this in. I will link it up above, but this palette's okay. It's more mattes than shimmers. You have 6 mattes, 2 shimmers, and it's just not a neutral palette that I'm going to reach for travel, which is kind of what I think the intention of this palette is. Formula is not bad. Like, it is a nice, easy palette to reach for. You can get pretty shades. Nothing wrong with the formula. I just am trying to be a little bit more cutthroat. And realistically, like, I'm not going to give this the love that it deserves. So again, it can go. This one may shock some people, but I am finally ready to declutter this. It hurts my heart a little bit. It is a Chantecaille quad. This is the Butterfly Eye Quartet. And the problem is with this is the color story just sucks. The formula sucks. I like it because of the packaging. Like, the packaging's so pretty with this stunning butterfly, but I need to get over that. And I'm not excited about this color story. I don't really want to swatch too many things, but this just, like, sucks. It just sucks. And I spent so much money on it. Here's like that duochrome shade, and then you have a neutral. It's not a terrible formula. I'm not going to say it's a great formula. Like, don't expect this duochrome here, this one, to knock your socks off like some indie duochrome. The mattes are definitely more K-beauty style, where they're kind of just like a wash of color. I don't love the color story. I don't love the formula. I only like the packaging. So I'm just ready to let this go. I just am. So that is leaving. My last palette, kind of, is this little Kaja stack. This is the one in Mauve Bouquet. I purchased like 4 Kaja stacks at a time, and this was actually the one that made me really, really want to try the Kaja stack formula, and the one that pushed me over the edge to purchase, because who doesn't love like a pinky purpley mauve color on their lids? I love it. It's my favorite. The problem with this one is that it's not the kind of trio that I want in like a very compact, very small palette. And that's why I'm going to declutter it. It's the only one like this in my Kaja stacks, so that's why I'm going to get rid of it. It has a matte here, which is more of like a mid to deep matte. Then you have like not very good shimmer. And then you have this really pretty glitter topper shade. I'll swatch this one. I really want it where it was their original Kaja stacks. I'm guessing they had to finally just switch it up because people were getting unexcited, but here's that glitter shade. I like the originals where it's a shimmer, then a light tone matte, and then a deep tone matte. I think those are perfect. That's why they're compact. They're easy to travel with, throw in your purse, do whatever you want with it. But those are the ones I kept. This one I'm decluttering because I'm just going to have to pull in a blending out shade or some other kind of matte to go with this, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. So it is leaving. Now that brings me to my other things. 7 palettes is what I got to. I tried to find 10. I was like, there's really nothing else. And I want to feel really confident about the things that I'm decluttering. So I went through the rest of my collection and I knew I had some foundations that I could just get rid of. I still have a bunch of foundations in my drawer of shame. My foundation collection is probably the most out of control collection when you factor in how things expire. So I decided to go through my foundations and get rid of some. So I found 3 that I'm just willing to part with. The first one being one that's opened. This is the Clinique Beyond Perfecting Foundation Concealer. I have the shade 2 Alabaster. This is actually not a terrible foundation. It comes with like this doe foot. It still smells fine, but it's probably still going to go in the trash. I'm sure it's expired. It's definitely more than a year old. So, it's not a bad foundation. There's just so many more in my collection that I like reaching for over this. For some reason, I look at this and I think that I don't like it. And then I'll pull it into a Shop My Stash and be like, oh, it's actually not that bad. I want to just stop doing that. Let's break the cycle here and get rid of this. It can go because I continue to think that I don't like it. It's not that I don't like it. It's just kind of thick and heavy and not my style. It's also a little bit light. I remember when I purchased this foundation, I had to return it multiple times because I couldn't find the right shade. It oxidizes like crazy. So I would go in person. I purchased this at the Macy's counter. I remember that. At the Clinique counter, they shade match me. I get home like an hour after wearing it. It was way too dark. Like alabaster is not typically a word that I go for when purchasing my foundation. So I don't know. It's just a little weird. The other 2 are foundations that were unopened in my collection. And this one is the L'Oreal Visible Lift Luminous Serum Tint. I have the shade 803 Gold. And I feel like this is probably not a foundation. I think that I thought it was a foundation. I went through like a kick where I was trying to buy all the different foundations in different drugstores. Like I did Maybelline, I wanted to do Revlon, I wanted to do L'Oreal, but I just don't have enough faces or time to really dedicate to testing out those foundations, the entire range, and then coming back and doing a video. I did do Maybelline and it took me like 6 months to try all those foundations and do a video. I will link it up above. But this is one I just don't think I'm ever going to get around to testing. It's not one that jumps out at me as one that I want to test. So I'm going to get rid of it. I like the name Visible Lift, but I just get the feeling, considering this is the shade 803 Gold, that this is not actually a foundation. I think this is kind of probably like the e.l.f. Halo Glow, if I had to guess, the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, something like that, because for it to be the shade gold, it has to have some kind of like illuminating, luminous qualities, right? I don't know. I don't want to open it and try it, so I'm not going to, but I might just honestly look it up online just to see if I'm correct. And that's, anyways, regardless, if it's like the e.l.f. Halo Glow, that's not my cup of tea. So this can go. Now, the very last thing that I have is the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydra Rescue. I actually really want to try this foundation. The problem is I picked up the shade 3N1, and typically in Estee Lauder foundations, I wear the shade 2N1. I just know this is going to be too dark for me. The problem is when I purchased this, I was living in Cyprus at the time, and Cyprus is an island. It's kind of in between Turkey and Israel, kind of tucked in there. So living on an island, like I was the darkest that I'd ever been in my entire life. I lived there almost 2 years. So at the time, I think I saw this on sale for the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty. I picked it up, sent it to my sister who lives in the States because clearly like there's no Ulta in Cyprus. And by the time I got this, I was no longer the tan goddess that I used to be. So this is just too dark, and I keep it around because I really want to try this formula. I've heard such good things about this foundation. Most Estee Lauder foundations I actually really enjoy. but I need to get over myself. Like, this is not the shade for me. I need to just wait for another sale and pick up my correct shade, and then I will do a foundation wear test on this. If you love this foundation, or if you hate this foundation, try to talk me out of this foundation if you can. If I don't need this in my collection, if it's not worth trying, then let me know down below. Because maybe I just don't need this, but still, part of me is just curious because I've seen so many people say it's their holy grails. Anyways, that's all 10 products that I decided to kind of get rid of, just go through my collection a little bit, do some spring cleaning, like I mentioned, and just get a little bit out of my life. My collection's still very large, still needs a lot of work, but slow and steady wins the race. That's how I'm looking at this. I want to make sure that I'm trying the products and not getting rid of things that I'm going to just end up repurchasing later because I want it back. So trying to be mindful of what I'm getting rid of and what I'm now bringing into my collection. Let me know down below if you're also kind of on the same page, trying to do the same things as me and just together be conscious consumer. But that's where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.